Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check the Jumbotron first, before attempting to eat a stack of Supreme nachos in one bite. Now you're just a meme that everyone shares on game day. Checking first is smart, so check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today has been an eventful one for the National Football League. Plenty of updates going around the league, some trades, some signings, and plenty of San Francisco 49ers news coming your way. The Niners made Brock Purdy the first offer when it comes to trying to get that contract extension signed. We have updates on Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga's future, and we have some veteran free agents hitting the open market, and two of them have been linked to the San Francisco 49ers. All of that coming up next right here on 49ers Access. As I promised, folks, plenty of updates going to come your way today, that being of the free agent variety. Although free agency doesn't begin until March 12th, that is the open period for players to sign elsewhere around the NFL. Teams are trying to construct their roster. You're seeing roster cuts being made and trades happening. A lot of players are given permission to seek trades around this time of the year. And while San Francisco has certainly had their hands on the trade market, maybe seeing who they can acquire during the offseason, today came with a ton of impending free agent updates, starting with that of offensive lineman Aaron Banks, former second-round pick in 2021, played left guard from 2022 up into this past year. He's going to hit the open market for the first time in his entire career, and it looks like he is not going to return this season, which shouldn't surprise many people. Aaron Banks really didn't play that well, which is why the number he may get this offseason actually is surprising, because according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, Aaron Banks is projected to receive anywhere between $18 to $20 million annually. That would make him, at worst, the top sixth highest paid guard in the NFL. When I heard that, I said, you've got to be kidding me. What sucker out there is going to pay Aaron Banks that kind of money? Now, look, we like Aaron Banks. He's a great guy. But my goodness, I don't know what team. And there were rumors that the Bears were going to try to get Aaron Banks, but they just acquired Joe Thuney today from the Chiefs, so that seems like it's off the table. Maybe there's a way that the Niners bring back Banks, albeit for that price is no way he'll return in 2025. And in fact, his play really wasn't good enough to even think about bringing back, in my opinion. I'd rather draft a player. I'd rather go with Ben Barch, maybe even Spencer Burford. But the fact that when you hear Aaron Banks make it $18 to $20 million a year, that blew my mind. I was like, all right, I don't know what it is with the NFL. Well, yes, we have seen a turn into valuing the interior offensive line, which, wink, wink, San Francisco, find your left guard next year and your center may help you a lot. Who would have thought that? That said, paying Aaron Banks $18 to $20 million, Aaron Banks wasn't even the best left guard on this team last year. He was running into his own players. He was not picking up stunts. The run blocking was absolutely terrible. However, when you have just competent offensive line play, you tend to make a lot of money in the NFL. I think offensive line is one of the most underrated and one of the most hardest positions to play in football, maybe outside of quarterback and cornerback, because you don't get the recognition. If you make one play, everybody hates you. And so if Aaron Banks gets that money, awesome. However, there really may be some good news when it comes to Aaron Banks getting $18 to $20 million a year this offseason, which it may leave a hole on San Francisco's roster, albeit I think they're going to be just fine with Ben Bartch and Spencer Burford as their left guards next season. The great thing about this is if Aaron Banks leaves for, again, that $18 to $20 million range that Pelissero is saying, that means San Francisco, depending on who they sign this offseason and for the asking prices or the price tag of those players they sign, they could be looking at a 2026 compensation pick in the 4th round for Aaron Banks, who they have no intention to bring back, who they are viewing as a, yep, just go ahead and kick the road, see you later kind of player, getting a free 4th round draft pick for, I don't know, insert whatever team you want to put in there as a destination for him. Maybe it's the Saints. Maybe it is the Falcons. Who knows? The Panthers, maybe. The fact that Aaron Banks gets that amount of money and you can get a 4th round pick back, that's incredible. You would sign up for that every single day of the week. So pretty good news when it comes to Aaron Banks' potential departure with the San Francisco 49ers, which is why I'm looking at Banks and the next guy, Javon Hargrave, who I don't know what the compensation draft picks may look like if he leaves or not. However, there were talks yesterday that the team was trying to trade him during the combine, and he's healthy now, so they're trying to get something for him. Although this morning, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that the Niners have notified teams they are going to cut Javon Hargrave with the post-June 1st designation. He is healthy, which was kind of the plan all along, that the cap savings all aligned to being a post-June 1st cut, despite trade rumors being out there. So that makes sense. They want to bring him back, but even John Lynch talked about his market being very robust. That was the exact word he used. So the odds Hargrave comes back are very slim, but if he's healthy, you never know. This is a very stacked defensive tackle class in the NFL draft. Maybe there's an avenue he comes back, albeit I really don't see it happening. So you're going to see Banks leave, and you're going to see Javon Hargrave leave, albeit maybe for a lesser contract than Aaron Banks' $18 to $20 million. Let's see what here. Benali P asks here in the YouTube chat, how are the Cardinals the most stable team in the NFC West right now? I am half expecting Trey McBride rumors at this point. Well, I can tell you this for a fact. They want to re-sign McBride. They're going to bring back McBride. The Cardinals, I don't think they're the most stable. I just think we're seeing so many roster moves currently happening. San Francisco being in transition, the Rams with Stafford and trading Alaric Jackson. I think that's who it was. From their offensive line, and then the Seahawks cutting Tyler Lockett, we'll get to him later, and then wanting to trade DK Metcalf after he asked for one. So you're seeing a lot of moves being made, although I wouldn't really categorize the Cardinals as being stable. I know Jonathan Gannon has been a head coach for 2 years now, albeit things can change pretty quickly. And, while they look better and they're growing, I would not classify the Cardinals as the most stable. I just think they are in a very different place than that of the other 3 teams in the NFC West. Let's see what else we have here. Jesus asks, Sterling, does the NFL and the NFLPA pressure teams to overpay players? If you're referring to Aaron Banks, I think we have seen not the overpayment of players, although it's a lot of money for Aaron Banks. I think we are seeing maybe a kind of like how the running back situation was last year, where Pollard and Henry and Saquon and all these guys get paid big money. Christian McCaffrey redoes his deal. I think you are seeing teams value the interior offensive line a lot more, hence why you're seeing players like Banks maybe getting $20 million this year and annually and so on and so forth. So I think a lot of teams GMs value name value. You hear these big contracts and you go, oh my God, that's crazy. Daniel Jones being one of those a couple years ago, Kirk Cousins last year, albeit those guys are quarterbacks. The Banks one doesn't surprise me, but if a team wants to give him that amount of money, take him for all you can. Like, he's not worth that. Maybe he gets better, but I wouldn't say it's an overpay. I just think teams value the position more than they had a couple years ago, which San Francisco needs to pick things up. The Bears are acting quick. They're getting their guards in place. You are going to see teams value left guard, center, and right guard. San Francisco has their right guard. They got to figure out center. And I know you like Ben Barch, but you shouldn't be against even getting maybe a draft pick to at least challenge him during OTAs and training camp. But Hargrave will be gone. Banks will be gone. And that brings us to Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, probably two of the most emotionally tied to impending free agents that fans are looking at the future of this offseason. I know a lot of fans want to bring back Dre. They want to bring back Hufanga, albeit are more tied to Greenlaw than they are Hufanga. They love both these players. Both these players bring energy to this team, this defense. You saw when they were out there against the Rams, it was a whole different monster and beast than we had seen the last or previous 12 games there were in last season. But according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, which may break some of your hearts, the Niners are expected to lose linebacker Dre Greenlaw and safety Talanoa Hufanga in free agency this year. And I'll give you the full quote as we speak now. They are going to lose talent in free agency. Talanoa Hufanga is going to be gone. I think Dre Greenlaw is going to be gone, ... Brock Purdy's contract is going to take a while to get done because it's not a simple solution. So Schefter's more alluding to Brock Purdy's contract being a very tricky thing for them, hence having to say goodbye to players like Banks, Greenlaw, Hargrave, and Hufanga. You already saw Debo traded, although there's very different reasons for that outside of Brock Purdy and his contract. Schefter keeps pushing this narrative that San Francisco is in cap hell, if you will. Like they're the New Orleans Saints, or they're a team that is so cap strong. That isn't the issue. San Francisco is not cap strong. They're cash strong. They're pulling back those reins of cash being spent on the team, not cap being spent on the team. And so to me, Talanoa Hufanga being gone makes sense. There's no reason any team should pay big money for a safety. While this draft doesn't have the high-end safeties you like or love, they have Malachi Starks, Andrew Makuba, and some others. They really don't have, these 3 or 4 or 5 guys. They have about 1 or 2 you can expect to have an instant impact on your team. I already named 2 of those a couple seconds ago. But there's no reason to pay, $15 million for a safety. I think San Francisco values Mustafa. They value Jair Brown. I think that's penciled in as their starters next year. I wouldn't be shocked to watch them cut George Odom as their third safety. There's going to be some transitions being had on defense, on special teams, and all that stuff. That said, the Greenlaw one is certainly not perplexing, but you take it more to heart because Greenlaw is probably going to have a pretty big market. Now, when I say that, I don't mean a lot of money. I mean a lot of teams. A lot of teams are going to want themselves a Dre Greenlaw. Whether it is the emotional impact, the energy impact, or simply just when he's healthy, he's one of the best linebackers in all of football. And there seems to be a lot of misconception here that I don't think money is the problem. I don't think any team's offering Dre Greenlaw, $12 million, $10 million. I think teams are probably sitting in that, 7 to 9 range with incentives that are willing to let Greenlaw, prove his worth and get his money, but you got to be healthy. And I'm someone that is very reluctant to especially, knowing that this team wants to reboot, that they want to restock, they want to get younger, they want to get more durable, they don't want to spend too much cash on players that really haven't been worth it in previous years, hence why Debo's gone, Ayuk may be gone, Juszczyk may be gone, and they're essentially being audited, right? The Niners are being audited currently by their own front office. And so when you do that, you're going to see players like Greenlaw leave. And I, for one, believe that letting Dre Greenlaw hit the open market, see what he can get out there, and if he walks, man, that sucks emotionally. I have my Dre Greenlaw jersey sitting in my closet. I wore it on Super Bowl Sunday, the day he tore his Achilles. And it sucked. It was heartbreaking to watch him come back last year. It was absolutely incredible. But there are so many questions. He played 34 snaps last year. 34 snaps. And this idea that, well, if they let him go, it's a mistake. How does anybody know that? Why would any team commit big money or multiple years for a player that is yet to show he can be healthy off an Achilles tear? Now, I love Dre. I want to have Greenlaw back so bad. The impact he has in the locker room, on the sidelines, and when he's healthy on the field is unlike anybody else on this defense. That said, for a team that is currently trying to cut cash, pivot how they construct their roster, would paying a player coming off a really serious injury who didn't re-tear it but re-aggravated it 34 snaps into his return be worth paying big money to? No. And I don't think Dre is sitting here like, well, San Francisco is the best fit for me. I don't think Dre views that. I don't think Dre views San Francisco as this place where it's like, oh, I gotta stay. I think Dre wants to be his own man, which Mayoko has said that, and others. And if Dre wants to be his own guy, it's never going to happen in San Francisco. So I am perfectly fine letting Dre see what he gets out there, and if he gets a great deal, awesome. We'll always be a fan, but I am much more open to the idea of signing a younger player or letting D. Winters play this year and say, be the linebacker number 2. These guys need to get reps. This team needs to know what they have in a transition year. Look, Devondre Campbell's gone. It's going to be really hard to be as bad as he was last year for the first half of last season. So whether you draft a guy, you sign a low-budget guy, I have no idea. But I am okay letting Dre Greenlaw walk and say, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. You're always going to be a fan favorite, but it's time to walk away. That the reward may not be worth the risk of re-signing him because there is no promise he's back to full health next year. Although, again, maybe he goes to the Cowboys or the Commanders and looks great. And if he does, awesome. Greenlaw's back. I just don't think this team is in the business of taking risks on players like Dre Greenlaw in his current situation. That said, they're trying to bring him back. They want to bring him back, but I'm hoping in that it is a one-year deal. I do not want to commit, 2 or 3 years to a player that has yet to show he's recovered from the injury completely. What do we have here in the YouTube chat? Joe Griffin says, let the man leave in peace without the wreckage. Yep, I am on board with that. You shake Dre Greenlaw's hand, you thank him for his service, and you wish him the best in his future endeavors. He will always have a home here in San Francisco, and he will always be a San Francisco 49er at heart, but it may be time to move on. And that's okay. That's the NFL. That's life. And I think San Francisco is going to end up having to say goodbye to him in free agency this year. Niner Media asks here, do you think guys like Gross Matos and Floyd get cut?
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number 1 contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
I don't think Gross Matos gets cut. I would not be shocked to watch Leonard Floyd get traded. I know there's a lot of things to like about Floyd, more consistency, some durability. Like, he never really is like a great player, but he's an above average, steady player that can really be a good number 3 edge rusher. I think they didn't see enough of Gross Matos last year on a pretty cheap deal as well, whereas Floyd can help a contender. I think a team like the Dolphins could really use Leonard Floyd. I think a team like the Buccaneers could really use Floyd. Maybe a team like the Bears as well. Even going back to the Chargers could make some sense for him with that new regime out there if Mack and Bosa are both gone. I think there are teams that would trade for Floyd, albeit probably like a 5th or 6th round pick. But of the two, I think Gross Matos comes back. He has the inside-outside versatility, something Saleh loves to have. He's still young. I think getting in with the new system, in a way, a new regime, new coaches, could go a long way for Gross Matos, albeit Floyd's going to be, 31, 32 this year on the last year of his deal. I think Floyd gets moved, if anybody of those two players. But I do want to get to the Brock Purdy conversation because Adam Schefter said right here when speaking of Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga that the Brock Purdy contract is going to take a while to get things done, and it's not going to be a simple solution. It's going to complicate some things for this offense. But before we do, I want to let you know, if you want to watch the Niners play in person, you want to go to an MLB game this season, or the NBA is in full swing currently. Kyrie Irving just tore his ACL. If you want to be a Golden State Warriors fan and go there out there at Chase Center, use our promo code 49ERSAccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And let's finally get to the Brock Purdy conversation. I think Brock Purdy, he'll get paid. I have a hard time believing a lot of the rumors out there, what's going on. However, there's a reason they're out there. And, last night at about, 5:30, 6 o'clock-ish, Jason La Canfora, formerly of CBS Sports, randomly tweeted out. It wasn't an according to, it wasn't a per league source. It was just a blurb on his Twitter account that said, the Niners have offered Brock Purdy $45 million per year as their starting offer. And again, it was perplexing. It didn't come from Schefter. It didn't come from some of the other big dogs in the NFL. It didn't come from Mayoko, guys closer to the building. And I want to be very clear here because Jason La Canfora, if you don't know, is one of the most unreliable journalists, one of the most unreliable reporters in the entire league. He was literally let go by CBS Sports because he was missing reports. He was inaccurate too much. So take what La Canfora says with a grain of salt. There is actually a website for La Canfora's incorrect reports that is still up, still running. So again, take a $45 million starting offer by San Francisco with a grain of salt. That said, we are going to operate as that is correct for the sake of this conversation. And so let's talk about that number. I think it's a great number to start off with. I know a lot of people yesterday were like, oh, he's being lowballed, and oh my goodness, what a terrible offer. Brock wants 55, you're giving him 45, what the heck? And the other side was like, no, this is great, go lower, start at 30, which has been a lot of the conversations we've had and a lot of the, reporting we've seen, or at least opinions we've heard from people throughout the offseason thus far in regards to what they believe Brock should get paid. I know Spotrac has Brock at about $59.7 million, just behind Dak Prescott, we've said. And Larry Krueger has said with me on the show that 57.5 makes a lot of sense for Brock. That's the Jared Goff deal. So a lot of opinions, a lot of, numbers being tossed out there. That said, I think $45 million is the Niners kind of just saying, look, this in every negotiation, you never start high. You always start as low as you can go. You never want to, shoot yourself in the foot. Like, you ever seen Pawn Stars? They'll always tell the person trying to pawn something off and sell something, they're like, we have to make a profit too. So this thing may be worth $1,000, but we're going to buy it from you for $800 or $700 to get our money back. That's the same thing here. While I think they do end up meeting somewhere in the middle at, let's say, 53, let's say 55 or somewhat, whatever Brock is asking for, which we do not know what that number is, so let's be careful here when we talk about this. Brock could say, give me 52, and they meet at 50. I think that this is a good sign. They are starting things off early. We didn't get reports of them starting contract negotiations with Ayuk until about later in March, maybe early April, before the draft. It was very confusing why they waited so long, which has got them into where they are now when it comes to cutting cash and moving off of guys. But one, this is a great thing. They are starting negotiations early as the NFL Combine. And if that 45 number, which I think it was Matthew Berry who reported yesterday, that San Francisco was far apart from Brock Purdy in what they were both asking for. So let's take that into account here as well. If the Niners, let's say Brock is asking for that $57 million per year contract, that's when things get complicated. Most teams usually aren't $15, $10 million off. Sometimes they are, which is usually when you see things get sticky or you see guaranteed money get brought into the equation. I think San Francisco, as Schefter reports here, that this is going to take a while to get done, which really pushes back on the sentiment that Brock and John Lynch shared during the exit interviews with the media, that they want to avoid drama, they want to get this done, that, they don't want to deal with, the constant conversations. They don't want to have shows like this and ESPN and, Fox Sports, and they don't want to have Brock Purdy's contract being a main topic of conversation during the offseason. They want to deal with their own guys, sign their own players, and have this be, while a big offseason for them when it comes to shedding contracts and whatnot, they would rather Brock Purdy and his contract be the last thing talked about, which when you hear Schefter say it's not going to be a simple solution and it's going to take a while. And we've heard him in the last 2 days on the McAfee show, on ESPN, and on his own podcast. He's being fed information. And he said himself that he brought up franchise tagging him twice, yesterday and today, in 2026 and 2027. He's talked openly about, the Niners are maybe thinking about letting Brock run out his contract. To try to read tea leaves there, that more so feels like that is the Niners telling Schefter, hey, we're serious here. We're not, we have lost too many deals. And I think that is where this comes from. I think that a lot of this, when you hear Schefter talk about, franchise tagging and, Brock playing out his fourth year of his contract and things may take a while, I question, why is a deal with your franchise quarterback hard to get done? That should be one of the easiest things to get done, knowing that Brock also wants to get things done. Now, again, when you're negotiating, it isn't always that simple. However, kind of connecting today's show and yesterday's show, in which I went in on the San Francisco 49ers and the way they're handling Brandon Ayuk's contract negotiations, or at least his trade talks this year on the market, I think this is San Francisco, unfortunately, viewing all of the contracts they consider as losses when it comes to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa. I'm sure Jimmy Garoppolo's in there somewhere. Many others. All the contract extensions they've handed out, they view as quote-unquote losses. This is them trying to correct course a little too much, I think. I think this is them in the front office, mainly Parag and the money guys up there saying, hey, look, we don't like losing. And if we continue to lose on deals like this, yes, we are burning money, if you will, albeit they make a ton. I think this is them essentially saying enough's enough, that we are not going to lose on these contracts any longer. They are taking their grief, if you will, from the losses they've had on the contracts they've signed into negotiations with Brock Purdy. We did not hear anything like this, anything about Brandon Ayuk last year this early. We didn't hear things about Deebo Samuel this early. Go back to, I think it may have been last year with Brandon Ayuk. John Lynch openly on ESPN was like, hey, we want to keep Ayuk here. He's a great player. We want to re-sign him. This is a completely different situation. There was no contractual drama, or at least, we're going to make Ayuk right out his deal. No, there was every intention to re-sign Brandon Ayuk last offseason. And now we're already getting more intel on Brock Purdy's contract than we ever had with Deebo and Bosa and Kittle and Warner and Brandon Ayuk last year at this time. There was no rumors at this time. Free agency hadn't started yet. San Francisco had every indication or had every intention of re-signing Brandon Ayuk. And the same thing can be said for Brock Purdy, but we're already getting intel on March 4th, on March 5th. This didn't happen last year. This is the Niners telling Adam Schefter what to say. They're playing hardball. They're probably not going to get this thing done around April. This thing is probably going to be tougher, and I think this may be the Niners putting pressure on Brock Purdy. That it's not going to be easy, Brock. It's not going to be easy, Brock. Blah, 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 all this stuff. We're going to franchise tag you. We're going to make you almost have to come down to us and our asking price, our value, because we are going to have a hard set number on you. Now, I think that's super disingenuous if that's the case, and I hope it's not. However, with the way they're talking, with the way that the Niners have probably leaked things to Schefter, we're getting reports from Kawakami and Matt Mayoko and Matthew Berry and Adam Schefter and others that are saying San Francisco is probably going to be a little more fickle this year, that they are taking their resentment into these negotiations with Brock Purdy, that they're probably going to have a harder number they're not going to surpass. And if Brock keeps saying, no, I want 52, I want 55, whatever that hard number is, if Brock Purdy continues to ask for more, then I think the Niners are willing to play devil's advocate here, which unfortunately has led to many people toss out one name and one name only. And that is a name that will essentially, you just pour gasoline all over that fire of Brock Purdy rumors. There's reports out of Tennessee or whatever saying, the Tennessee Titans are going to trade the first overall pick for Brock Purdy. People were saying, trade Brock Purdy for a third-round pick and go get Jalen Milroe. Holy crap, could you be more stupid? It's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. I like Cam Ward. The Titans would be dumb to trade the first overall pick for Brock Purdy. I love Brock Purdy. As a fan of his, I would not trade a first overall pick for him in this draft, or usually any of them. And I get it, it's a bad quarterback class this year. There really is only one bona fide first-round quarterback. Shedor's not it. Jackson's Dart is not it. Milroe's not it. Those guys can be great, but as first-round picks, yikes. That said, we did get a little bit of information, although I don't know how valid it is, from Spotrac's Michael Giannitti. He was talking about the financial aspect of Brock Purdy's contract, and he thinks that the $45 million starting offer that San Francisco reportedly gave Brock Purdy is a good starting point. And I would agree that, $45 million is a good baseline. It's above that of Baker Mayfield's and around Kirk Cousins' deal last year. You are putting yourself, I think that would be around 12th in the NFL, which really isn't that bad. And maybe San Francisco works their way up to about 6th, 5th maybe, which, again, you always start low and work your way up in any negotiation. But he he unfortunately, this being Michael Giannitti again, admitted that San Francisco could be open to the idea of using Aaron Rodgers as leverage if Brock Purdy threatens to hold out or sign Aaron Rodgers on the off chance Brock Purdy does hold out, which I think is asinine. I don't think it'll happen, but he said, and keep in mind, not a reporter, probably not too much in tune with what's happening in San Francisco, but knows the financial side, has seen these things over and over again. He talked about Aaron Rodgers, in my eyes said, you got to be kidding me. And that's when he said that San Francisco, if they have that hard number, say it is $50 million, and Brock asks for 53, 54, 55, and they say no, and Brock says, fine, I'm going to hold out. The Niners do have leverage over Brock Purdy. They do. They have financial leverage, they have franchise tag leverage, and I think they are going to openly utilize that to make Brock Purdy almost drive his own value down. And I think the Niners really didn't have leverage last year with Ayuk. I think they were so open about re-signing him. They had said no to so many trades that it made it really obvious. I think if San Francisco would have traded Ayuk or been open and more open to trading Ayuk last year, maybe could have had Brian Thomas, maybe could have had a second-round pick last year. Who knows?
Employee Appreciation Day is March 7th, and a Starbucks card is the perfect way to say, thanks for all you do. Have a smaller team? You can send up to 10 e-gifts in one transaction from the Starbucks app or online at starbucks.com/gift. Or you can also send physical or digital cards in bulk at starbuckscardb2b.com. No matter your team's size or location, Starbucks has got you covered.
I think that this is San Francisco simply saying, we hold the cards, we're tired of losing, and we're going to make sure we actually win this negotiation. I think it's unfortunate that's the case. I think this idea of winning is kind of stupid, because if you pay Brock Purdy and you win football games, then you all win. So, and the thing about Schefter is that he keeps bringing up the franchise tag because Brock's making $5-ish million this year. Then he'll make 40, I believe, or something along those lines on the franchise tag. Then it'll be 51 in 2027 on the franchise tag. So he'd make about, I don't know, what is it, like $97-ish million in 3 years. Whereas if he signs, let's say a hard number for the Niners is $50 million, he'll get $150 million over 3 years, which is $60 more million than he would get on the franchise tag. If there is anything we're getting from this, is that San Francisco is going to play hardball. They're going to use their leverage even more so now than they had in previous years, and they are going to make sure they win negotiations. They view winning negotiations as the most important part of this. People forget the NFL is a business, and sometimes business gets in the way of actually getting good football deals done. And I think San Francisco right now is in the business of making sure they win these deals. And look, without knowing what Brock Purdy's asking for, we can't really dive in too much into it from his side of things. But this is clear as day, San Francisco saying they are dangling the carrot of like, do you want to make $150 million for 3 years? Or do you want to make 97? It's up to you, Brock. Sign this 3-year, $50 million per year deal, or get franchise tagged twice. It's like, that's what this is. They're openly telling the world, the media, the fans, and even Brock Purdy and his agent, we have leverage. Either come down from your asking price or make $60 less million for 3 years. Tell me down below what you think of that. What do you think of those negotiation tactics coming out of San Francisco? And if you also could, go down in the description and click that link to get yourself a can of goat fuel. I know Niner Media wants the cowing fuel, But I'm telling you now, goat fuel is the better juice, the better fuel to get yourself if you want to perform like the goat himself, Jerry Rice. I got goat fuel in my fridge right now. I wanted coffee. I said, no. I got to have a healthier alternative. I cracked that can open, and I had the caffeine course through my veins, like when Dre Greenlaw makes a tackle against the Rams, and you're saying, slow down, Dre. Don't get a PI. Please, don't get a personal foul. That's how drinking goat fuel feels like. Click that link down below and get yourself 10% off your purchase by using my link in the description. Okay, let's move on from Brock Purdy. Let's move on from Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on from the Niners side of the free agency pool and move into the other news that transpired today. A lot of moves have been made. A lot of reactions have been had to the moves around the NFL. And I want to start off with what the Seattle Seahawks have done thus far this offseason. Because they today cut Tyler Lockett, and shortly after that, DK Metcalf asked for a trade, which isn't surprising. Rumors came out at the Combine that the Packers were involved, the Chargers were involved in on him, and the writing seems to be on the wall. They brought a new head coach in last year. It was more of a transition season for them, trying to get the roster right. He wants to shed some money. He wants to move off of some one-year contracts. Don't forget, Deebo Samuel and DK Metcalf share the same agent, both in the last year of their deals, so it makes sense for Torrey Dandy, the agent in this case, to get his guys out of where they're currently playing, get into a place that may value them more and utilize them more to increase their value, before they hit free agency and after this upcoming season. That said, Metcalf is gone, and it elicited one of the most funniest reactions from Diamador Lenore. He was like, please don't go, DK. Please don't go. Who else am I going to have fun with in Seattle? You can tell there is this, we can punk DK Metcalf whenever we want to. Lenore is one of the best trash talkers in all of football, in my opinion, or at least on this team. And clear as day, you can tell he's like, I don't want to let DK leave because he makes pissing him off so fun. And he said here, y'all cannot let DK Metcalf leave. How am I going to have fun out there? Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's a crybaby. He's crying all day long, and he even did his own impersonation saying, oh, refs, he's holding me. So Lenore is certainly not happy about DK asking for a trade. But then funny enough, he reacted to Seattle Seahawks fans being angry at him for reacting to DK's trade request, calling them the worst fans in football because they are quote-unquote delusional. So some fun stuff there. But going back to Benali P's point earlier about many teams seeming dysfunctional and the Cardinals kind of feeling like they are the most stable franchise in the NFC West, the Seahawks are watching two of their top receivers leave this offseason. They're going to trade DK, which you can view as their version of Deebo Samuel, albeit not the same player, but contract-wise, situation-wise, very similar to Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. And they're going to cut Tyler Lockett, who got cut today, which I think would make a phenomenal signing by San Francisco. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think that, while the fit makes sense, get him in the slot, Jennings goes outside, Pearsall go outside, Lockett would be able to play even when Ayuk returns from the injury, if they don't trade him, mind you. I think Lockett makes some sense if you go into his PFF profile here on my laptop. While Lockett is older, he was drafted in 2015, former third-round pick. He'll be about 32, 33 in September this year. For Seattle last year, played every single game for them, so there's durability off the bat right there. He'll be your instant slot receiver starter. He'll give you something else and different than, say, Jennings and Pearsall can give you. He's a pretty good separator. He had 49 receptions last year for 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. He really is one of the more sure-handed people in all of football. Had a 71.5 drop grade, which is really good. per PFF, lines up in the slot about 29% of the time. Can also play outside, so you're getting a versatile player in Tyler Lockett who, if you go to his blocking grade, though, that's when maybe you can have some questions. Only a 50.8 run blocking grade, which isn't great at all. So maybe you ask, like, well, Lockett's a smaller guy, he's 5'10", 182 pounds. Maybe that doesn't fit what San Francisco wants to do. So, okay. Lockett, the age thing maybe scare you away. I think, when you look at the Brandon Ayuk situation, and you look at where the Niners currently are with their receiver room, they can pitch you all day long about Tariq Owens. I don't think that's the case. I also don't think San Francisco wants to actually trade Brandon Ayuk. I just think they're open to the idea of it, which I've been saying that for a few days now. That also came out via Jennifer Lee Chan today. So if you don't believe me, you can go ahead and believe JLC, who is obviously much more in tune than I am. Although in recent days, I've been pretty right about a lot of things, so who knows. But with the Niners currently trying to kind of recalibrate the roster, maybe signing a 33-year-old doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe they want a one-year deal for a player, and Lockett maybe doesn't want that. However, and I want to ask you guys this, what about Christian Kirk, who I do think makes a lot more sense with the Commanders? Cliff Kingsbury's there. He was drafted by Kingsbury when he was with the Cardinals. So there's a connection there with the Washington Commanders, although Christian Kirk is a darn good football player. He can play inside, play outside, a smaller guy, mind you, but when he's healthy, which is a massive question again, would you guys mind signing Christian Kirk? Now, of course, what he actually signs for, his asking price could make this harder. But I think Christian Kirk could be maybe a higher end option for them when it comes to value. But I do want to get into two other receivers specifically, because I have mentioned these two guys for a few weeks now. And it's funny that we talk about them here and it gets quiet. And look, I'm not saying I had insight into what they wanted to do, but we talked long and hard about Keenan Allen and Robert Woods, how those two guys make a ton of sense over T. Higgins or Devontae Adams or insert other high-end receiver. And lo and behold, yesterday, Matt Mayoko, one of the most in-tune people with the San Francisco 49ers, linked Keenan Allen and Robert Woods as two receivers the San Francisco 49ers could target this season. So I don't know if you want to send flowers to my house in Hesperia. I don't know if you want to give me a pat on the back, but no, I'm just kidding. I think both these guys make a ton of sense. Two different receivers in very similar stages of their career, albeit Woods is the older veteran that played for the Rams and McVay, went to the Texans, has seen his production decline steadily over the last few years. And I think he would be more so of a depth guy. He'd be a player you sign to, you have Pearsall and Jennings as your 1 and 2. I think if you sign Robert Woods, you're either banking on a draft pick or you're kind of banking on, Tariq Owens or Cowing becoming a higher contributor into your offense. But Woods, I think, is a floor raiser, not a ceiling riser, if that makes sense. But again, I don't mind raising the floor of that room. Woods would be that. He's a good run blocker, knows the offense already, having played in it with the Rams and McVay. So Woods could make some sense. Although I will say this, Keenan Allen is one of the more intriguing options out there, because Keenan Allen, I know last year got traded from the Chargers to the Bears, and the idea was, Caleb Williams has the best receiving core in all football, and then it fell apart pretty quickly. Fired Eberflus, brought in Ben Johnson. Keenan Allen's currently a free agent. He is going to be 33 coming into this year. He'll be 33 on April 27th. However, when you talk about a Band-Aid, the ultimate Band-Aid, where you're probably not going to have to commit big-time money to Keenan Allen. I think he should be open to more of an incentive-based deal. The receiver market's pretty bad this year. I don't think he'll get too much money. He's 33 years old. They're going to be this year. He had 70 receptions last year for 744 yards, 7 touchdowns. Clearly can still play. He lined up more in the slot than he did outside, so he gives you inside-outside versatility, and I think could be a relatively good player for you. Last year, his pass blocking grade was 67.5, which is pretty good for a wide receiver. If you want to get into his run blocking grade, we can get into that as well, which is, again, pretty terrible. But I think when you have Jawan Jennings and you have Pearsall, and maybe you sign somebody else for a cheaper contract, or you bring in a rookie or whatever, I can see Keenan Allen being the Band-Aid to get you to Brandon Ayuk. I can really see him being there for 1 year. He has injury history, but he's from California, played at Cal, he's a NorCal guy. I can see him maybe wanting to come home for the last year of his career. So I think it's certainly an option. We were on that pretty quickly here on the show, and it's good to hear Mayoko is also saying that too. It means we're heading in the right direction in regards to what this team wants to do this offseason. And again, Jennifer Lee Chan, clear as day, said that they are trying to bring in a veteran free agent wide receiver, which, Allen, I think, makes a lot of sense. I don't think he'd be too expensive. Woods obviously makes more sense because of his contract being really cheaper than, say, Allen would be. But Leon Sandcastle says he likes Darius Slayton and Tutu Atwell. Tutu is interesting because he's a former third-round pick from Louisville of the Los Angeles Rams. Beat San Francisco in that first game a lot last year. Primarily a slot receiver, a smaller guy. I'm not sure, there's a reason as to why he didn't stick with the Rams. There's a reason as to why Demarcus Robinson jumped him on the depth chart, and others did as well. There were some injuries involved for sure, but although I really like Atwell, his skill set fits what San Francisco wants to do. I find him rather redundant when you have Jacob Cowing. And if San Francisco is truly trying to recalibrate and don't believe they have to sign a free agent, albeit seems that's been proven false by JLC, I don't think you need to have two of the exact same player on your team. And I think Atwell and Cowing are very much the same. That said, Darius Slayton makes a lot of sense. We've been kind of talking about him as a mid-tier option, although I think it was Matthew Berry that said he would be, or was it Berry or was it Jeremy Fowler that said that Slayton would be this year's Darnell Mooney, which he got 3 years, $39 million last year. And I'm not sure San Francisco wants to pay a wide receiver $13 million a year. Slayton said recently on a podcast that he wants to win and he wants the opportunity. He would certainly have both those here in San Francisco. He would be there. And look, if they trade Brandon Ayuk, I think Slayton becomes more likely than, say, Allen or Woods, although the asking price may be too high for Slayton no matter what. I'd be open to it. I just don't know if San Francisco wants to pour more money into the receiver room unless it is for a 1 or 2 year deal, which I don't know if Slayton's open to, albeit he may be if he wants to prove himself and get a bigger deal next year in a much more competent organization, is how I'll put that, with a better offense around him, which could hopefully skyrocket his market and make him a really good player on the open market in 2026. But I think Allen and Woods make the most sense of the receivers I said today. I don't buy into Higgins or Devontae or even Atwell. I like him, but thinner guy. You have Cowing, wouldn't make that move. I think that, Woods and Allen make the most sense of the guys I already said today. Slayton making a lot of sense as well, but...
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Money. Shane McMahon style. Papa J, which brings me to my next topic, says here on the YouTube chat that Max Crosby gets 3 years, $106.5 million contract with $96.5 million guaranteed. Yes, folks, you can immediately, although it was never likely, you can cross off your Max Crosby wish list. It's not going to happen. He's staying in Las Vegas. He wants to be with the Raiders. I think it's a good deal for him. I think it makes sense for him to stay there. You have Pete Carroll, you have Tom Brady, and he wants to be able to build something out there. I think the Raiders are probably going to try for Sam Darnold. There's been some rumors they like Shedeur Sanders at number, I think it's 7, or is it 6? One of those. In this year's draft, although I don't think Shedeur goes in the first round, let alone top 10. The Raiders, I think, are going to want to contend. They're going to have to find somebody. I think Darnold makes the most sense. I would not be shocked to watch the Raiders sign Sam Darnold and draft Ashton Genty in the first round. I really would not be shocked there because, Pete Carroll, he wants to run that rock. And Darnold, you probably wouldn't have to pay too much money to, maybe like $35 million a year for about 3 years, very Baker Mayfield-like, so not too much tied to him. Maybe it's a heavy guaranteed deal early, and less or so down the road, which gives them an out in case he kind of falls back into his bust-like ways. But Max Crosby, not going to be a 49er. Cross him off your list, and I think that kind of crosses off a lot of people in regards to Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson. I think Sam Hubbard got released, then retired from the Bengals today. So it seems like they're going to bring back all their guys out there in Cincinnati. So it really feels like San Francisco is not going to be on the market for a top-end edge rusher. Although we got an interesting tweet today by Nick Wagoner saying that the San Francisco 49ers don't want to stop spending money. They just want to spend money more wisely. They want to maybe have a better idea as to who they're spending money on and not be so loose with their spending as they have been in previous years. So maybe there's a way San Francisco buys a few big names, which kind of leads me to the end of the show today because Jonathan Allen is not going to get traded by the Washington Commanders, and he's going to get released. And it's an interesting name. I think Jonathan Allen is a very good player, a very stout pass rusher, not much of a run defender, although he is one of the players that was discussed by the San Francisco 49ers when it came to the Deebo Samuel trade negotiations. There was talks of a player-for-player trade, although the Commanders were unwilling to eat part of Allen's contract to make that trade work. San Francisco took a 5th-round pick, obviously, instead, but Jonathan Allen will be on the open market. I am fully expecting San Francisco to be one of the teams interested in him. I think when you're letting Javon Hargrave go, they want to find that interior pass-rushing defensive tackle. And I think they believe they can find their run stuffer in the draft. I would not be shocked to find them maybe signing Jonathan Allen to a 2 or 3 year deal, not going to give him a 5 or 4 year deal. I am fully expecting Jonathan Allen to be at least somewhere on San Francisco's radar. He'll be about 30 years old this year. I actually just turned 30 in January. I know, last year wasn't great for him. 3 sacks. He had 26 pressures, 21 tackles. But the last couple years, dating back to 2020, where he had 3 sacks, then 10 sacks, then 8 sacks, then 6 sacks, then 3 sacks this past year. He's a player that in his prime, when he was, 26, 27, 28, 50 pressures, 67 pressures. and then 47 and 49. Then he had 26 last year. I'm not sure if that is because of injury. He only played about, 8 regular season games. So maybe some reasons to worry, but I think a fresh start would undoubtedly help him, clear his mind, get better. Again, the run defense isn't great. This was his second worst run defending year of his career, but again, only played 8 games. Maybe there was injuries there. It only played about 420 snaps, where in previous years he was playing on average about 800. So maybe not the player you swing on, but I think he'd be pretty cheap. I don't like his contract is about $16 million. So he'll have money on the books for the Commanders already. And so I think that Allen would probably be okay signing a 1 or 2 year deal. Plug and play on the interior. Maybe San Francisco then trades or releases Malik Collins, frees up some money there to kind of alleviate the pressure of having Allen, Collins, who are very similar players, albeit different tiers of player when it comes to their skill sets. I can see San Francisco replacing Hargrave with Allen, and then going and drafting, whether it is Collins from Texas or, Hill from, I think, Indiana, or Peebles from, I think is it Virginia Tech, who they're like in love with him. Maybe that's wrong, but either way, San Francisco, if they are intent on remaining competitive, getting cheaper, maybe not tying themselves to higher price free agents for longer, I think Jonathan Allen can make some sense. I am completely expecting them to be in on him. They wanted to trade for him. I think they would have traded for him had the contract been worked out with the Commanders, although they said no, hence why he's getting released. But I can very easily see Jonathan Allen being in San Francisco. This team likes their former Commanders, Chase Young being one of those a couple years ago, and I can see Jonathan Allen being a San Francisco 49er in 2025. But tell me down below in the comments, would you want the San Francisco 49ers to sign Josh Allen? Kawachipto says Allen for cheap would be solid. Release Jordan Elliott. So he likes the idea of signing Jonathan Allen. What do you like, and what do you think they'll do? Tell me down below in the comments. Do you like what San Francisco is doing in regards to their contract negotiation tactics with Brock Purdy, leaking that they got the leverage and they're only going to pay him about $45 million in the first offer they gave him? And you can tell they're playing hardball. They're tired of losing. How do you view their negotiation tactics? Tell me down below in the YouTube chat. If you could, follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And go ahead and use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And while you're at a concert or a sporting event, go ahead and get yourself a can of goat fuel by clicking that link down below in the description and save yourself 10% off your purchase. I want to thank Great1765 who mentions Christian Kirk. We already talked about him earlier. Fish and Chips, always in here. Kawachipto, Strawberry Reacts, Papa J, Tommy Huxley, Dre Area Sports, Benali P, Marketing Pro, so many more of you in the YouTube chat. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Fish and Chips asks here, Jackson, will he resign? Not sure who you mean in regards to Jackson. Maybe you can let me know really fast here as I do the outro, but if you could, like, share, subscribe, give us that 5-star review on the audio podcasting platforms, and go ahead and hit like on this video. And look, until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, if the news keeps coming out, probably tomorrow, and yeah, as always, stay faithful.